Welcome to episode 4 of the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. I am always Big Baby Jimmy. We got Chris here. We got Steven here. And right away, I'm going to throw it over to Steven because just like last week how Chris had a gripe, this week Steven's got a gripe. So go ahead, buddy.
Fresh one.
What'd you say, Chris?
Said it's a fresh one.
Yeah, it's the main event of WrestleMania. Is stupid already.
What? Your lovely Becky Lynch? Are you complaining about your Becky Lynch match?
Oh no, I'm not complaining about Becky Lynch. I'm complaining about the stupidity they've done with this whole freaking match. They keep trying to have backup plans for every little thing, and now they're backtracking their backup plans because everything was working out originally.
It's almost like they didn't need Charlotte Flair to be in the match in the first place, right?
Didn't. And I get you want that safety net, but they could have had the safety net without the whole last month and a half of drawn out shit.
We talked about this. We talked about how the right match for Charlotte was Asuka, right? Like that made the most sense. And they had the match. They had the match last night, and it was a good match, right?
Here's a question though: wasn't the match last night their first WrestleMania match over again?
Like moved for move?
Yeah,
like
wasn't
match?
it the same match? It ended the same way. There was a couple like the Spanish fly off of the turnbuckle. That was a spot in that match at WrestleMania last year. Wasn't it the same match?
It was close for spot, but there was done on both sides that was different in this one. But for the most part, it was the same exact match with the same exact outcome. Being this time.
The ending looked better, I feel like, for some reason. Just the way they got into the figure eight last night looked good. So I'm
saying they've progressed each of them over this past year, and their chemistry got better, so the match flowed better. That was the match from last year, the match the way it should have happened last year. It's like they took the same script and just added a couple extra kicks in the middle of it.
Oh, there's a couple of ideas and scenarios that this looks like, right? Like, and Steven, you were talking about it, and I'll let you get into it. But where do we go from here now with Charlotte being a champion as well?
Well, I'll start with the worst one. I think off the bat is they're talking about unifying them. There's the theory going around they could be unifying the women's titles to have one women's title. It's all to work better with the tag team titles, so all the women will be on all the shows, so it flows, so everybody's a contender for everything, which is BS.
I think it's a good idea.
Making the SmackDown Women's title.
I think it's a good idea and a bad. I think it's a good idea and a bad idea. And here's my argument for both. I think it's a bad idea because I think it's very difficult when you start throwing wrestlers from show to show. You really hurt the lower ends of your card. The wrestlers that are kind of towards the middle get shrunken down, and the low carders really disappear altogether. So where is the opportunity? The reason it might be a good thing is because what women mid-carders actually deserve opportunities and what women low-carders are even worth anything.
All right, off of that right there, one of the women mid-carders right now who deserves an opportunity, which is one of the theories I was reading earlier, is 6-woman tag on Raw like they were talking about with Becky, Charlotte, and Ronda versus the Riot Squad. That could set up to where Ruby pins Charlotte into the match, and they set up a Ruby versus Charlotte for the SmackDown title at WrestleMania to throw her to SmackDown and her into the main event picture right there. People like Ruby, I think, deserve that kind of a spot because if you think of the Riot Squad in the tag team division, Ruby's not the one that's going for the tag titles.
And you're talking about a second match, right? You're talking about Charlotte wrestling 2 matches at WrestleMania?
What I heard, if that happens, Charlotte wouldn't be in the final match. Basically, Charlotte was the safety net. So now that Becky's cleared, because apparently she did have a knee thing going on, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it made it out to be. But they were worried without keeping her off. They were worried about keeping her off TV, but her being too active and hurting herself even more. So safety was that safety net. Charlotte was. So now that Becky's cleared, everything's good. They don't think there's any issue. They have the choice if they want to pull Charlotte out of the match and make it the 1-on-1 like it was originally going to be.
A hot mess.
I would not be opposed to the hot mess theory where Charlotte actually wrestles 2 matches. I think it makes sense from the standpoint of doing. I'm not going to steal your thunder, so I'm just going to pass it to you, Chris. I think that having her wrestle 2 matches makes sense for your theory.
To get down to the fatal 4-way for the main event.
Negative.
Instead of
the
other one.
The other one.
Okay, so there's 2 theories I've been talking about. I've been talking about either the fatal 4-way where they basically just plug Asuka into that last match as well, but more importantly,
what happened?
Yeah, more importantly,
it would make for a better main event. Sorry.
About this weeks ago, and I was pitching the idea that the end of WrestleMania, if you want to make the women the main event, the end of WrestleMania is all the women, the 4 horsewomen, holding their titles. That aspect was going to be, in my theory, Charlotte versus Asuka, Charlotte beating Asuka, holding the title, Becky beating Ronda, holding the title, and I was saying that it was going to be Bayley and Sasha over whoever was holding the title at that point to hold the titles, and all 4 of them would hold the titles. We're now back to that point again where we could have all 4 of them at the end of the night in the ring with titles. Becky pins Ronda, wins the title, and you have Becky in the ring with her title, Charlotte congratulating her because they're going to break character. She'll have her title, and then they're going to run out from the back with their titles, and all 4 of them will finish the night in the ring with titles above their heads.
Or, titles on their shoulders.
I agree.
With the 4.
I agree, except for Becky pins Charlotte. Charlotte has her 2 matches. Her first match, whether it be Asuka or whoever they put her in a match with, it's a grueling match that she wins in the end. She comes in. They take out Ronda, but Charlotte's injured. Becky takes advantage of it and pins her. Just like what was it, SummerSlam or whatever, when Charlotte did that to Becky.
Yeah.
And then Becky attacked her. But
no, you just made it worse. You just made the main event worse, though, Steven. Because the whole
think of the probability of the 2 things that are going to happen. They're not going to pin Ronda.
Why not? If she's going to leave for a while, who cares? Everybody will forget about it.
And that's the perfect end to this story. That's the end of the story we need to do.
That's the way to be able to bring her back. Just like that's how they protected Brock before, when they had Seth come out and take Raw, pin Roman instead of Brock. They want to keep those strong, big names, the UFC names. They want to keep them happy and protected. Ronda hasn't been pinned. She hasn't submitted. I don't think it's going to happen if it's a triple threat match, Ronda will not be the one who gets beat. It'll be Charlotte.
You're forgetting, though, having wrestling mimicking reality is not always the worst idea. So have Becky beat Ronda, who thinks she's unbeatable, and then it kind of like fucks with her head, and so she's got to leave. You remember how after Ronda Rousey lost her first UFC fight, how long it was before she fought again?
Yeah, I agree.
That would be a perfect storyline. Perfect. Especially since she needs to take a leave of absence anyway if she wants to start a family.
I agree, but I just don't see. If it's a triple threat match, I don't see Ronda taking the fall.
I actually don't think it will. I think my theory is kind of the flip flop, and then Charlotte having to make a decision, so that Asuka will get a rematch next week. She will lose the title, and then she'll be pissed. She'll want another rematch, and she'll have to make a decision. Okay, do you want to be in the triple threat, or do you want to be in a match with Asuka? And there you go.
I think you make that in that scenario. I think you make it a pride thing. So either she has to vacate the women's title, the SmackDown women's title, and be in the triple threat, or defend the SmackDown women's title. I think you make it a pride thing because she's a Flair. defend her gold instead of losing it to go for another one. Or out of it. I don't
maybe, and I think it also makes.
Title.
I think it also makes sense from the standpoint of like looking like long-term decisions, right? And if Rhonda is going to leave to start a family, and we already know that we want to put the title on Becky, then wouldn't the next best build-up be, hey, let's put a title on Charlotte, let's put a title on Becky, and then they can fight each other at Survivor Series?
You get that, yeah, because you don't want both of them on the same show like they've been doing, because then you don't have that legitimate person that they're considered to be a champion. The women's division has a lot of people, but with the tag titles in the mix of it, you don't have legitimate women to be on both shows. You can't put them all on the same show.
It's just it's so frustrating because I think we were all in agreement a while ago that the women main eventing WrestleMania would be great. It would be a great thing. You know, it's a great year for women's wrestling over the last 12 months, or complicated it so much that it's almost forced at this point. It's almost to the point where, yeah, they're getting to main event, and yeah, there's aspects that they completely deserve it, but it just seems like how we got here is so confusing and so over the top storyline driven that the storyline didn't make sense half the time. You know, we're just throwing Charlotte into the match because she's handpicked by Vince McMahon. And, you know, Ronda all of a sudden is going to go from friendly Ronda to I hate the fans Ronda. And then Becky's going to have a knee injury that exists but then doesn't exist. And then all of a sudden Charlotte now needs a title belt. And why couldn't it just be the match? Why couldn't it be that moment when Becky was holding Ronda in the locker room in the disarmer, and everyone flipped out because Becky was on Raw invading, and they could have ridden that momentum all the way to the WrestleMania main event, but they made it so much more complicated than they needed to. And now it's almost taken away from all the accomplishments that the girls have had. It's frustrating.
Even the whole booking her being suspended, they were doing so good. They had her suspended, but then they bring her back just jumping the ropes each time when they should have had her invading the locker room to attack either, if there was going to be the triple threat, to attack Charlotte or to attack Ronda. Where she's still suspended, she keeps attacking them and leaving and attacking and leaving instead of coming out in the main. They didn't have to have her come to the ring every time. They didn't have to have her come through the crowd. They didn't need all that. They could have just had her attacking one or both of them backstage to where they demand her be back in the match.
I agree.
And demand her be reinstated.
I agree with that, in that you could have done it like very clever, where let's say when they're taping those segments, they make sure that they never show Becky Lynch's face, and you have somebody in a hoodie, but maybe you see like a little bit of red hair, so you go, oh, I know who that is. I know that that's Becky. But because they never show her face, they have to be like, well, we don't really know who attacked you because we didn't actually see them on tape.
She could have left like little marks or something, like little like hints behind all the time. Yeah, they could have
goggles. Goggles. There's goggles everywhere. What's with all these goggles?
Different pieces of her old gimmick to where she's that evolution into that man, that badass character they want her to be.
Can we drop the badass thing? No, I'm over it. I'm over it. They have killed the badass. It does not exist anymore. She is now like, I don't know. I don't even know that she's an underdog. She's just a person that people really like. But I'm not buying this Stone Cold Steve Austin female thing.
If they wouldn't have did the way they did, they could have strung it out and made it her more of the man character. Let her take the jabs and talk, and then have some, like you said, somebody in a hoodie or somebody you don't see the face of. Just the little shots where you know it's her, but they can't prove it's her. They could have built up that, you know, the aura around her to make it seem like, oh, this is the big deal. They took the lazy way out, basically. They threw everything together. They said lazy way out, and then it became a car crash that here we are less than 2 weeks away, and they're trying to save themselves.
It always comes back to marketing, right? So it's always like, hey, we need to keep putting Becky on TV because everybody really likes her, and it's what's going to make people watch the WrestleMania match. But, you know, if I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. Absence. It works. Like, why didn't you do it?
Could have done weeks of via satellite where she attacked people backstage, but she wasn't really in town. And they could have did it so much.
And if you really wanted to push that Stone Cold type of angle, why didn't you push like having Stephanie be the Vince character in that situation, where she gets suspended by Stephanie, and like remember she initially attacked Stephanie when she got suspended or whatever, and like build on that. Instead of having her attack the opponents, I mean, maybe have her attack the opponents too, but like attack Stephanie McMahon. Like, make that a thing. Like, even though that's like blatantly ripping off Stone Cold, like, does it matter? Have they ever cared about that before? I don't think so. I mean, they steal from themselves on like Monday to Tuesday. So like, why would you care about if they, did something like that?
I mean, there's no telling if they don't go in that direction the rest of this year, right? After WrestleMania, they're going to have to go in some direction with the storyline that probably is going to have to create a new heel other than, just Charlotte being there, unless they're moving both of them over to Raw, in which case they could feud over Raw. They can, and they have, and they probably will.
They can't do that, especially with them building up to be on Fox in October. They can't do. They're going to put all their eggs in a basket. They try to make Raw look good, and then it's going to come and it's going to just be a big train wreck for the first couple weeks. They're on Fox,
unless there's one title and the women are on both shows.
And they need to unify the Universal and the WWE.
No, they don't, though, because the difference between the men and the women, and I'm sorry, women, but there's a lot more talented men in the company than there are talented women.
There is?
Yeah.
But you make more mid-card titles. You unify the two main, you put the hardcore title and the U.S. title back out there.
U.S. title's already out there.
I mean, the hardcore and the European title.
Oh, like you use the North American.
More mid-card titles. Or use the North American. But it takes the credibility away from them saying there's a women's revolution. If they unify all the women's titles.
I don't know. I guess I'm a realist. So I'm not meaning to offend anybody, but it's just
not
like if
you're a hater.
If you have a bunch of if you have a small group of really good women wrestlers and everybody else is just kind of like you can only make so many arguments about like pushing this women's revolution envelope when only like 5 or 6 of them are actually doing it.
You have to bring back people to continue, decent matchups. Bringing back Beth Phoenix, who looks pretty good, coming back after her retirement. You have to bring those people back to have.
That's because she's legitimately one of those that's strong enough to pick up the bigger people.
Oh, dude, so it makes it look like picked up. That was the fact that she was able to pick up Tamina like that, like nothing, and hold her in that position. I was like, holy cow. Might be convinced to see this woman in a match again.
I think that's what that segment was. It was the calm people down because people were very upset about she's being brought back and thrown right into a match once again. The part-timers and
yeah, she's ready, and it was exactly what we thought it was going to be. Where every single tag team's taking on the one tag team because that's pretty much the only way they can have a realistic tag team title match at WrestleMania right now is to put multiple tag teams there.
That's how you make it iconic.
But wait a second.
Should win.
That means that we only have like 2 women's matches the entire night.
Be the women's battle royal too.
Okay, 3. Yeah, you're right.
It is pretty pitiful. I mean, considering it's a big women's year, but I guess
Chris,
you gave them the main event.
They got the main event. It's all right. They can have less matches, way less matches.
They might have the main event, but they've kind of said there's not going to be the Evolution pay-per-view this year. The women had it last year. They'll have it next year.
I wonder why that is. Because it was horrible.
There's also talks of them doing a Queen of the Ring instead of a King of the Ring.
I will kill somebody if we don't get King of the Ring, but we have Queen of the Ring. Now here's one thing I have to believe though is that
obviously Charlotte, right?
You look at all of the female talent in NXT. And if you talk about all that good female talent in NXT and then bringing them up and then weeding out the bad talent on the main roster, your women's division is going to get really good. Like 100%. But right now, I'm not surprised they don't want to do Evolution, because why would you do Evolution with your main card women when you're just lacking enough assets to really put that pay-per-view over. Yeah.
Because they were fighting to fill the card up this past year. And that's the thing, is they don't have enough women developed. Time to develop them. They developed Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley, Becky, and now all four of them are tied up into something. And they dropped these other girls down to build the four of them up, to when now you're trying to lean on these girls who you've torn down to this point. So it's just no credibility for any of the girls other than the four who have Romania. Lack of another way of putting it, but the four horsewomen that they want to be called are the only ones with the credibility right now in the women's division.
Well, there's a couple more. I think there's a couple more than just the four horsewomen, but there's not many more, right?
Legitimate credibility that you would say, okay, I could see them taking the title from somebody in the next week or two before WrestleMania. To throw them in the middle.
All right, yeah. I want you to, hey, Steven, just throw a comment out there, and before anybody can say anything, it's like, well, but put this on it, tack this on it, tack this on it, tack this on it. Genuine credibility that can take the title tomorrow before WrestleMania. That also wears size 10 shoes and. Now
you're just getting more specific than I was.
I know. I'm just messing with you, man. Because when I say like credibility, I think that you just made an argument a little while ago. I think Ruby Riott has some credibility. I think
other than Asuka, nobody makes legitimate sense. But then they just said they got rid of that no automatic rematch clause. So now what?
Well, yeah, they don't actually have to follow that though.
No, and they haven't. They've
been a rule, but not been a rule for years.
It's more of, does this fit into what we're looking at storyline wise right now? So I mean, how long did it take Finn Balor to get his true rematch after he came back? Right, but he had to forfeit his title. So it just depends on the storyline. And then I'm almost wondering. I don't know where she's at after her surgery, but I'm almost wondering if they were holding out hope that Ember Moon was going to be ready for WrestleMania. Like, I don't know how long her surgery was supposed to keep her out, but it almost seemed like they were just holding Asuka out there with no storyline and no WrestleMania opponent. And it was almost like, could they get Ember back in time to bring her back for the WrestleMania match? And when they finally found out she wasn't going to be ready, they just pulled this trigger on the Charlotte thing. It just seems so last minute that it's almost like they had something else in mind and they had to quickly change gears.
That would be a great SummerSlam match. They could build to it, give them a few months of back and forth, and to have the big blow off match at SummerSlam. But if they unify the women's titles, then a lot of those lesser feuds don't have nothing to build to.
Can't unify the titles. I think I think we all can agree that's the wrong decision right now. I
think it's a good idea.
At one point maybe we should be thinking about unifying titles, but right now the women need the flexibility of building storylines around titles on both shows.
I don't know.
If you didn't have if Asuka didn't have a title for the last how many months, she would literally be doing nothing. And it was bad enough that you were wasting her. She had a title. Now she has no title. And now if you took the title away completely from SmackDown and only had one title going back and forth from the shows, would anyone be interested in the women's storylines on TV?
You could add a mid-card title, though. Would you be happy with that?
Why are you unifying the titles? What's the point of unifying the titles if you're just going to add another title as a mid-card title?
Because
just
they don't have enough.
Titles.
They don't have enough good talent for both shows.
You know what? I don't know. Maybe they do.
Title? What would you call it?
I mean, I don't know. If you wanted to make it iconic, you would want it to be like a women's intercontinental title, because I think intercontinental is like the most prestigious mid-card title.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is. Well, it's been built back into that until the Almighty got his hands on it.
Oh, don't even get me started. Although you know what, it's better than being like Finn Balor's facing Undertaker, because I would have not even watched WrestleMania. I think.
So
I think,
are we getting Finn as the demon against Lashley? Because what's the point of
I think
that?
we will.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm gonna hold by my theory that they do that Intercontinental. I'm gonna think they're gonna do that Intercontinental match early, and that I don't know if Finn's gonna win it or not. He might not. But that if you do have the demon, you'll have the demon at the very end of Rollins' match. Rollins wins and the demon comes out, because I really think that's.
I think you have Bobby jump Finn on Raw, and they beat the living hell out of him to where they think they're going to win by forfeit at Mania, and all of a sudden the demon music hits, and he comes out as the demon.
Such a waste of the demon. It's not very. I don't think that's a very good way of booking the demon into the match. Like, who cares? Like, he can beat Bobby Lashley.
He has beat Bobby Lashley.
Exactly. So why does he have to be the demon to re-beat Bobby Lashley? It makes no sense.
It's to get that WrestleMania pop. It's to get the views.
He beat both of them. He beat them in handicap matches. He beat them with 5-on-1 on Monday night.
But I'm saying the WrestleMania pop is having Rollins win and then having the demon come out. Because what's your next, other than Money in the Bank, what's your next major pay-per-view? It's SummerSlam, which is the
Saudi
demon,
Arabia.
The same. Well, not the, what? Hush your mouth. Hush your mouth, Steven. Don't say ridiculous things like that.
It's the crown jewel.
It's the 2:00 piece of crap pay-per-view that you might or might not be able to see because you're working. That's what it is.
I don't see where that fits in. I get the SummerSlam build up for Seth Rollins versus the Demon, but isn't it a little bit early to be doing it at the end of WrestleMania?
No, because it's the next one.
It's not the next one.
What's the next one then? I'm not counting Money in the Bank. It's not the very next pay-per-view. It's the very next major pay-per-view, because it goes Royal Rumble, it goes Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series.
Do that, then you're feeding into the whole the demon's only going to be a SummerSlam thing.
Well, I thought they already said the demon was only going to be. That's the whole reason I'm trying to pitch it. But
hold on. So you got WrestleMania, you got the Saudi Arabia event, you got Backlash, you got Money in the Bank, you got Extreme Rules, then you have SummerSlam. Not bring the demon out at WrestleMania in April and expect the storyline to just fill itself all the way through August.
There was a guy named John Cena who was set to face The Rock a year later. Are you kidding me?
Seth and Finn are full-time wrestlers, where The Rock is not.
Whatever. Well, I'm talking about the demon. I'm talking about the demon. I'm not talking about Finn Balor. They're two different people.
Yeah, I don't.
That's like the Hurricane and Shane Helms are two different people.
They are.
What's up with that?
The Hurricane's the strongest man in the world. Just saying.
I agree that that's the right match at SummerSlam. I just don't know that the demon coming out after the Seth Rollins match makes any sense at WrestleMania, because I think that's way too early to do it. Now, another pay-per-view later on at the end, if Seth Rollins is the winner, and then there's some hint towards it as weeks go on, yeah, that makes sense. But at WrestleMania, it's too early.
It's WrestleMania, though. The other little pay-per-views are not worthy of that moment.
I'm gonna go with, they're gonna unfortunately just bring him out as the demon against Lashley, and that's gonna be what you get. You're gonna get the demon versus Lashley, which
awful.
I guess be thankful you get the demon, which means he's gonna win.
I'm not thankful.
unless
it'll be a squash match to save time.
Unless Bobby Lashley beats the Demon.
Unless Bobby Lashley beats the Demon.
And then I quit. I'm never recording another word on this podcast. By the way, anybody listening, by the way, people listening on this podcast, I will say ridiculous stuff like that all the time, which I will then totally flip on the next week. But still, I'm being dramatic. Here. I really, really don't want some of that stuff to happen. I really think Big Baby Jimmy thinks that having Bobby Lashley beat Finn Balor as the Demon is a really bad idea.
Was a baby to a Southern guy. What was that about?
Hey, I live in the South, so it's Wrestling USA, baby. We call it down here wrestling.
There's so many other scenarios that make more sense for that like end of the match with like Dean coming out or Roman coming out and celebrating as the Shield, and then Roman turning heel or Dean turning heel for like the 34th time, or just there's
Dean heel again. I think if there's a heel turn from the Shield members, it's going to be Roman.
I'm not even sure though. I'm like
those make more sense at the end of Rollins' match, right?
No. Again, me personally, Demon makes more sense to me. That's just my style. So we don't have to agree.
Style is
clearly somebody's right and somebody's wrong. I'm right, you're wrong, and we can move on with our lives. Here's the thing about Roman Reigns, though. I'm getting kind of pumped for this match, man.
McIntyre.
There's a lot of people in opinions that I've read where people are like, oh, why are you leaning on the cancer? WWE, do you have no heart? Why are you talking about his family? Like, people, who cares? It's about building a really good story. And what's a good story is I believed Roman Reigns when he went out there in that ring and he looked at McIntyre and he said, this is not as Roman Reigns. Don't you ever talk about my family. Just started beating him. That was a great spot. It was great.
Because Drew's a massive heel. He plays great heel. Like The Miz, like Dolph Ziggler. Some people are just really good at being a heel.
And I give credit to Dean, too, because Dean has made McIntyre look really strong over the last few weeks.
Yeah, the match on Raw was kind of, I think, rushed. They gave him 10 minutes for a last man standing match. They could have totally stretched that out to at least 20 minutes.
Yeah, but the kick he took with his head in the rails, a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that guy really is starting to take some bumps to make McIntyre look just incredible, and that's part of it, right?
It's gonna be KO. Nobody else takes those bumps.
Yeah, it's one of those two.
Mustafa Ali takes bumps like that.
Mustafa Ali doesn't mean to take bumps like that.
Who?
Mustafa meant to take some of those bumps.
I'm sorry, Ali.
Who?
Yeah,
I was talking about Ali, not Mustafa Ali.
I don't know this Mustafa Ali. He must be on like the old network TV shows. I don't know.
WWE, you are so ridiculous.
My turn, right? So why do we have to keep shortening wrestlers' names? What's the deal with WWE? Like what's the problem? Do you not want to pay for the characters when you screen print the T-shirts? Do you not want to, have people figuring out how to spell names like Tommaso? Like, I don't understand why we have to keep shortening wrestlers' names to make it more interesting or cooler. Even the heavy machinery guys, they had to come up and lose their names. Now we got Mustafa Ali is just Ali, and I saw a joke out there that The Miz is just going to be called The. It's getting to the point that it's just absolutely. I could almost understand Tommaso Ciampa because he has such a hard first name, but I loved his name. Tommaso Ciampa. Just it had a feeling to it. But Ciampa's still good. I get that, but like the Mustafa Ali thing, I feel like there's no reason for that. Even Andrade Cien Almas, his name was just long. It seemed like, and I get that too, but. Rey Mysterio never had to be just Mysterio, right? He's still Rey Mysterio. Randy Orton's not just Orton. John Cena's not just Cena. Why all of a sudden now are we worried about how long guys' names are? Well, what's going on? I need to know, because I'm worried that all of a sudden I'm just going to be looking at Banks, Bayley, Lynch, Flair. Like, I have to memorize everyone's last name.
It would be if I can interject. I believe that Becky Lynch would be man, Charlotte Flair would be queen, Bayley would be hug, and Sasha Banks would be bump.
That's how I'm gonna give you a check mark for that. That's all good stuff right there.
Good times.
The check mark on all those,
because it's a great name for everybody.
But I don't know. Like, it's been bothering me because it's, it happened with Ciampa when he first came up, and that was the first one that I think really started to bother me. And then this Mustafa Ali thing, I think it's comical at this point. Steven even sent me something with it, and what did I say, Steven? I said that's got to be a joke, right?
Yeah, he said it's got to be a joke.
Ali.
LA Jose is now called No.
I mean, that's kind of an accurate nickname. Sorry, No Way Jose. I love you.
So I don't know. I think they focus too much on those aspects of what's going on TV and not into, hey, let's build a really interesting storyline that, has like extra meaning to it, or even like what James was saying, like, you could have been real clever about when you kept Becky off TV and you don't really know if it's her. No, you know what you're going to do? The storyline's going to be just Becky Lynch in your face on TV every single episode of every single show we possibly could put out there.
And the pops could have been so much bigger if they would have just kept her away for a little while. But no.
Just 1 week. Just 1 week. Keep her away for a week, and I bet you all of a sudden the pops would be huge. In shampoo commercials, she's showing up. I mean, she's already on social media everywhere. So I mean, that's the thing.
Let her shit talk online. You don't have to have them on
exactly.
TV.
This day and age, you don't need to do promos on TV every week, because the social media is such a big part of the WWE now that you don't even need to be on TV for people to be understanding what the storyline is and what's going on. I think more people understand the Twitter war that Rousey and Becky have had than the actual shows and matches they've had in the last 4 weeks.
My best impression of Becky has honestly been her being on ENC's show on the network, like all the different skits that she does on Edge and Christian's show. Like, that to me has made me like Becky more than anything else. All the stuff on SmackDown and Raw, it's just been like, okay, yeah, hey, guess I've heard this before. Yep, I've heard that too. Yep, heard that too.
I've liked Becky long before I watched her.
Hey, I can 100% back that up. You were always about Becky all the time. You just flung pure hatred at Sasha, whether she was involved with Becky or not. But Steven is Steven the boss, so I would like to throw that out there. It is always boss time in Steven's life.
I just like Charlotte's push just as much as Sasha's, but Charlotte just made more sense to me than Sasha.
Charlotte, though, she can't always carry some of the bad wrestlers, but when Charlotte fights good people, man, she's really good, and she's a really good heel. She's got talent.
I've been I've said in the past that I thought that Charlotte actually was really good at elevating other wrestlers, but honestly, yeah, you're right. Like, there's been times where I've noticed that she can't elevate everybody. She's had some rough matches with like Carmella. Like, those were some rough championship matches.
The people she's fought in her best matches, there's a reason why they've been Bayley or Sasha or Becky or Asuka. It's because it's people who can actually keep up at a certain pace and hit certain things that these other ones just can't do it.
No, and that's somebody that I've been really impressed with over the last month is Bayley. Like, they've done the storyline where she's almost carrying Sasha through these matches, and she's looked really good. Like, she's looked like the NXT Bayley, where it's like
they're building it to when eventually they lose it, they're gonna
better
turn
flow.
her.
Yeah. like she definitely looks better, and I'm excited to see what this year is going to bring for her, because I think she's finally going to get the push on the main show that she's pretty much should have had right out of the NXT gates, right? Like she came up from NXT and she was the biggest thing in NXT at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for my my Bayley character that they'll never do, but I think it's just a funny concept?
Oh man, you've been pitching this for a while.
Well, no. I mean, I was kind of like, hey, she should be Sister Abigail, and I still think that would be cool to try it, just because, why not? I mean, I know she's not the ideal person to be Sister Abigail, but I don't want Bray Wyatt to ever talk about Sister Abigail again and be talking about himself, dressed up in female's clothing. It doesn't work for me personally. But no, you know how they've got like the hugger section at like all these shows? Well, what I was thinking is they should take Bayley and turn her into like a goth and then have like the cutter section. No,
that's
nothing.
Too much. Nah.
I know it's definitely too much. They would never do it, but I think it is hysterical and a hysterical idea. Let's do
I think
it.
they do they're going to continue the storyline of them being tag champs. It'll be a slow build. I think they're both Sasha and Bayley will end up on SmackDown, and that's when they're going to turn Bayley and have that feud as one of the running feuds when SmackDown goes to Fox to draw in viewers.
Man, I've got so many great ideas for Cutter Bayley too. It's just like, she can have a promo that she does like in between like big pay-per-views, and it's called like 13 Reasons Why Bayley, where each episode she does like another reason.
I'm gonna give you a week. I'm gonna give you a week to figure out a better name than Cutter Bayley, because I think you could pitch the idea if it wasn't such a terrible name.
That's just what I named her for, like that one time that I said it 2 seconds ago.
Well, that's why I said you have a week, because I don't think the character is as bad as we're hearing you say it right now, but it is that bad when you name it that. So
have we ever talked? Because I know me and you have talked, and I believe me, you, and Steven have all talked about like the wrestler that you're looking for in WWE. I don't think that we've ever talked about that on here, though, have we?
Believe so.
Is that your segue into saying you're looking for an emo cutter goth chick?
Well, no, because I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with my actual thing that when we talked about that theory. So like the whole premise is like, WWE obviously has tons of different characters and stuff, but something's always missing for most wrestling fans. There's always like one type of character, whether it was a character in the past that you really enjoyed, and you want something back that was like that, or something that maybe you've seen on a different promotion and you're like, man, I really like that character. I wish they had a character like that on WWE, since WWE is the lion's share of what I'm watching every week. Do you guys have a wrestler like that, or a style of wrestler that you really, really want in WWE that we don't have right now?
There's a couple of guys that they have, because you guys are always talking about the hardcore title, and you guys are always talking about bringing back the hardcore title. And I agree. Like, I always loved the hardcore title just as much as you guys did. And they have guys that could walk right into that title, walk right into that storyline that I think would be perfect. There's a guy, Luke Harper, who would be amazing in those matches and would be amazing in that storyline. And honestly,
who's Luke?
Harper. Then honestly, this Dean Ambrose, the one that we have right now, and if they can keep him in this, character, I think he would be perfect too. And now you've got two guys fighting for a championship that I think could have like incredible matches, for a hardcore title, or at least a hardcore style wrestler that it's, no holds barred. It's falls count anywhere. Like they would,
guys who could fit into that like
every week, right?
You throw Joe into it every so often. You throw KO into it every so often. Like, you have people that could fit that mold.
And I'm on the bandwagon with you guys. I mean, I think that would be huge for WWE. I think SmackDown specifically would be great on Fox with a hardcore title. I think that's the edginess that they're going to look for when they bring it to the network television.
Even if they didn't
But
want to call it the hardcore title, I mean, hell, they could the stupid name, but they could call it the 24/7 champion or something, where it's you can defend it anywhere. Everywhere.
And Cutter Bailey was bad. Good
Cutter
gracious!
Bayley is more insulting than 24/7 champion.
It doesn't matter if something's insulting. That's you know what? Let me rant for a second because this is something that drives me.
Which one's more likely to get a lawsuit? Cutter Bayley?
That drives me crazy about wrestling. It's that people. Why do people take things in wrestling so seriously? If everybody, for the most part, universally believes that wrestling isn't real, then why do we get so offended when we do storylines where it's really like holding a microscope up to society and like it's critiquing society in some way? And yeah, sometimes it might be a little offensive, but who cares?
Okay,
Society
it's a business. In the end, it's a business. So what is going to cause the least amount of friction but get the most amount of ratings, right? What's going to create merchandise? What's going to create fans? What's going to create followings without creating controversy? And not, that controversy is good sometimes. Look at Becky and Ronda, but you can't create controversy that's going to be bad. And it's a business. I hate to be the, what's best for business guy, but honestly, Cutter Bayley would not be best for business.
Oh my gosh, I'm not arguing. I'm not necessarily arguing for Cutter Bayley.
I agree.
Although I love that Cutter Bayley has basically been cemented onto this podcast at this point. So there's no going back. It's Cutter Bayley or nothing.
So there's too much editing to do.
But each episode and this tagline should be the Cutter Bayley episode.
Oh,
I guess the way I look at it though is like, and I guess the argument could be, well, yeah, it's New Japan, but you look at some of the promos that, some of these Americans that are going over to New Japan are cutting, and they're pretty filthy. And most of them are in Bullet Club, which, by the way, used to be, if not still, was one of the most popularly bought shirts in, like, America for wrestling. So that's pushing the edge a lot, don't you think?
Yeah, it's on the edge. And then and that's, the outcasts, the guys that are, not the norm and not mainstream. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing about the Bullet Club is you're not mainstream. You're not, the man, of Vince McMahon, not the man Becky Lynch. You're different than the norm of WWE. You can go outside of the WWE like PG storylines and PG TV that they put out there. Made the Bullet Club so popular is they were like the DX that we grew up with was, we're going to go out there and we're going to say, we're not going to be like, these gimmicky wrestlers that were always around in WWE. We're going to be something different. We're going to be something that's going to revolt against it. Popular.
I think with the move to Fox, you're going to get more edgy content, but I don't think it'll ever be with the foul mouth, sort of like the Attitude Area S. Like you won't get that, but it will get more edgy.
Never have that back completely.
I think you'll get more of the current Dean, the whole aggression kind of, not lunatic, but like the kind of Dean you're getting now. You'll get more story like that from people. They'll let them push it a little bit more, which they should do.
Can we hurry up and re-sign him?
Can we just sign an agreement right now? Like, there's nothing where I lose anything in this agreement, though. But you guys just owe me money if Cutter Bayley ever becomes a thing.
Oh, it's not going to become a thing. I'm sorry.
So you mean
way too over with little kids for that to become a thing?
Yeah, but little kids turn into like hormonal teenagers, and I feel like Cutter Bayley would like maybe appeal to them.
Little kids suing the WWE because their 12 and 13-year-old daughters are cutting themselves now.
I think I'm just getting edgier on this podcast with my opinions until somebody comments and says that I'm just heartless. I think that's what I'm looking for.
Just looking for a comment, any comment at all.
What's wrong? What's wrong with that guy
named
media
to promote anything?
What's wrong with that big baby Jimmy guy? Why is he talking about Bayley cutting herself all the time?
Jeez. I think Bayley's just fine with the character she is right now. At some point, she'll need to be, a heel, which will be great, I think, if she could pull off heel, which we always, didn't know if Becky could pull off heel. So we'll see. We'll see if Bayley can do it now.
Has a grown fan ever dressed up like a little kid and tried to get a hug from Bayley?
Probably. That's creepy though, but yeah, probably.
I guarantee the answer to that is yes. Overseas, when they go overseas, there's groups of fans that are older fans that dress up as all the different characters, and it's pretty impressive, to be honest. Most of the Asian countries are really impressive how they dress up.
Okay,
go look at that. Anybody listening right now, go look and see how they dress up like all the characters, and these fans are hardcore.
Wrestling's more of a thing over there than it is here. Like a fake soap opera here than it is in the Asian countries and stuff. That's why New Japan is the way it is. It's because it's more acceptable in those places than it is here. It used to be here in the 90s and the 80s and all that, but it's not anymore.
I love wrestling. How dare you speak down to it?
Speaking down to wrestling, I'm speaking down to America's outlook on wrestling.
Whoa, he's an America hater, people. I know who you're missing from WWE. You're missing the old Iraqi sympathizer Sergeant Slaughter. He was your favorite wrestler, wasn't he?
Not even close.
It's okay. We all more of it was more of a Nikolai Volkov kind of guy.
Yeah, good stuff. To kind of rotate back around to a question that I asked because I realized I never answered it. So anybody who's ever watched Lucha Underground, there's two different wrestlers on Lucha Underground. One of them has signed with AEW. His name, Pentagon Black, Pentagon Zero, Pentagon Junior, whatever.
Yeah, so wrestles for multiple other promotions.
Yes, Ring of Honor.
Of AEW.
Man, I would love to have somebody like him in WWE. And the same goes with Mil Muertes, who is very much in Lucha. I loved this thing on Lucha where they would have women, wrestling men, and they were always playing the storylines like they were very aware of it. Like there were some men that were very hesitant to fight some of these women. But then you had wrestlers like Pentagon and Mil Muertes who was just like, you want to fight me? Face the consequences. And didn't matter if it was a guy, didn't matter if it was a woman, they were getting just destroyed in the ring. And if you got in their way, they were going to destroy you. I want a wrestler like that in WWE. I don't think it's ever going to happen anytime soon, but
Randy Orton?
I really, really want that. They did it one time with Randy Orton. They started to talk about maybe having mixed matches, and then they decided against it, so they were unwilling to pull the trigger. And I don't know when they're going to be willing to pull the trigger, but it's not today.
Well, I mean, in the lines of the Lucha guys, the Lucha Underground guys, I mean, they just actually cleared a lawsuit settlement. So there's going to be some guys available that wrestled on that promotion. And one of them that could be really interesting, that there's some rumors that he could be WWE bound, is King Cuerno. He's one of those guys that not necessarily all the way to your Pentagon, but he's pretty good, and I think he'd be an interesting character on NXT or even a SmackDown.
King Cuerno.
You could bring a little bit of a different style to the ring in WWE. Yeah, so maybe you'll get a little bit of what you want, but not quite all the way.
Best suicide dives ever.
Yeah, he does. He does.
It's pretty good, man.
The triple suicide dives from Rollins aren't bad, and the flying headbutt from Tozawa isn't bad either.
It's been
he moves, man. Cuerno's flying.
I don't know, man. I think we're gonna have to pull up some videos after this, and I'm gonna have to just show you how wrong you are about even bringing them up in comparison.
Seeing Cuerno do his suicide dives, he gets some velocity.
True. Oh man.
Undertaker's had a couple of suicide dives.
Remember that one where he caught the top rope?
The one where he caught his neck on the ground.
Yeah. Well, that was when the cameraman was supposed to catch him, right?
Yeah. Good stuff.
Quick way to get fired and don't catch the Undertaker.
That was the best Undertaker match ever, wasn't it? Wasn't that Shawn Michaels Undertaker?
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
The pinnacle of the mountain.
Best. Anytime you say the best of anyone's match, usually HBK is included in that.
Oh my gosh, this guy.
I mean, he's not lying.
And his HP. I'm not saying he's inaccurate. I'm just saying it's not 100% factually accurate. There are really good matches that HBK wasn't in.
Okay. I mean, I'm not saying HBK. He can't be in every match, right? The guy doesn't wrestle anymore. But that being said,
just
in
admit
his
that
prime,
you
was there
are in
any
love
match better than
with
HBK?
HBK. You have a man crush on HBK.
Is a sexy boy, okay?
Chris is a sexy boy. Yep. Something like that.
Oh. If you put any of those Attitude Era wrestlers and HBK in a ring, you knew you were going to get a classic. So I'm just saying, there's very few matches that I remember that were bad with HBK in them. And like we talked about, I don't know if it was during the podcast or off, when you're talking about people's last matches, you know, you need to put somebody in there that could carry a last match and be memorable. And HBK is one of those guys, not Baron Corbin. Not Baron Corbin.
It's gonna be John Cena.
I'm gonna be right, and it's gonna be John Cena.
It's gonna be John Cena.
It's gonna be great. Because I like the little throwback they've been doing with Kurt. Did you notice the throwback they did with him and Joe?
I mean, all the NXT matches Kurt's having in WWE.
Okay. But yeah, so Kurt had a match with Samoa Joe in TNA, and Kurt started out the match with like a headbutt. So they literally just flipped it and let Joe start out the match with a headbutt on Raw. The interesting thing is they're letting Kurt little cheap wins, roll ups, or
cues out of nowhere,
RKOs out of nowhere. It's just proving that Angle and Baron Corbin in a ring together for a final match, I don't know that it could last more than like 3 minutes. Really, he's getting worse, not better. And the guy's not, he's not young anymore. So I understand that it's not. I'm not expecting him to all of a sudden just magically be AJ Styles. He's still wrestling guys. He's still doing the suplexes. But it's obvious that he's struggling.
Sloppy. Like when he reversed the calf crusher to the ankle lock, he completely missed AJ's leg there for a minute. And then that angle slam to Randy Orton at the end where he let Randy go before he actually made it through the motion.
That's the Chad Gable match where they were doing some like actual wrestling, and he actually I guess had to do a move where he was going to pull his legs out from under him, but he forgot to pull his legs out, so Gable just fell.
Yeah,
that one I caught that pretty quick too, but
Whisper in the wind.
Yeah, there goes Jinder Mahal. He just fell again. I don't know. John Cena match could save the reputation of Kurt Angle here in the last 3 months. I think it could even hurt him a little bit because the last John Cena match we saw, Taker, and that was pretty rough. The last big John Cena match.
Last big one, yeah.
But they wanted that to be. I mean, Cena was better than that match was written.
That match was so bad.
I call it for anybody listening. I call it the Hillbilly Fry match because that's what I did. The entire time that they were fighting, I made hillbilly fries.
I think that's inaccurate. The entire time the Undertaker was walking to the ring, you made Hillbilly Rise.
That is accurate in Fantasyland. That's just the fun joke part of it.
I just am worried that we're going to remember Ankle's last match as something just awful, and I don't know that there's anybody that could save it. But at least John Cena, Kurt Angle would be a good throwback to his Cena's first match. If they could bring back that Cena, and I wonder if they'd be willing to commit to that. You think they'd actually come out and bring Cena as with a chain around his neck and rapping?
That was not the first Cena match. He was in red trunks and he hollered a ruthless aggression. It was not the Thugonomics John Cena.
Right. But I want Thugonomics.
Yeah, Thugonomics is good.
You wanted American Badass last year against Cena, and you didn't get that either.
Yeah, I wanted.
Which would have been better. Which would have been better.
It would have been. I mean, if you have the exact same match, but you at least got the pop of Badass Undertaker, like it would have been much better. And he would be driving or riding a motorcycle, so he would have gotten down to the ring a lot quicker.
Maybe.
Been one of those jazzy, those little stair elevator things for old people they sit in. Have one of those come to the ring for Taker.
You should just ride a scooter.
A really slow segue.
The basket.
Well, but on the topic of people's last matches, don't you think that it kind of is a trend, like these career-ending matches where they're like finally done and they've done their tours? Don't they usually lose them?
Yes, they usually lose on their way out.
Yeah, so
it's your Trish Stratus.
Let's have Cena come in and just beat him.
So let's slide over to that other match that we're talking about. Career last match, possibly, with the Triple H Batista match. Like, is that what they're going to do with that one too? Like, that was a weird stipulation that popped up.
Please win Batista. And it's not that I don't like Triple H. It's not that I don't like Triple H. It's just for the longest time, I feel like the card has suffered from them holding on to nostalgia for too long. Triple H has officially become a nostalgic wrestler because he doesn't really wrestle that much anymore, but he'll wrestle in certain events. And I don't care if he continues to wrestle in Saudi Arabia. Go for it. Doesn't matter. But like on your normal programming regiment, like we don't need to see you, Triple H.
If he loses to Batista, he's not going to wrestle anywhere. He's going to be done.
Well, good. Let's do it.
But the thing is, it's not like he's a guy that, I mean, he's decent in the ring. He doesn't botch that much. And honestly, he jobs for everybody.
My opinion is not based on whether he is a bad nostalgic wrestler or a good nostalgic wrestler. It's just there's too many people on the roster. So when you have somebody like him or Shane wrestle, it hurts the rest of the roster.
And I think he's a bad example of your opinion. I think you have a good opinion. I just think Triple H is a bad example of it because of how much he puts other guys over and does a good job of it, to be honest.
I would say
he can still carry some people if he has to in the process of putting them over.
I would say when I make my list of the people that I have that grievance with, the one that I tend to sometimes put on there, sometimes not, that is a bad example, is Randy Orton. Because Randy Orton can clearly still wrestle.
Yeah.
But, Cena, who's pretty much moved on, I'm glad that he's not really on television anymore. That's good. Undertaker doesn't really wrestle anymore. Like, I don't want him to wrestle anymore. Like, I like this thing where people are like, well, you can't have WrestleMania without the Undertaker. It's like, yeah, but oh my gosh, how many WrestleManias are we gonna be like? Is it gonna be worse? Oh my God, it's worse. Like,
used to say you can't have WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan either, and that faded. You just gotta,
just give it some time.
First year without him will be weird. After that.
And if they're gonna have Undertaker fight, like, let him fight. I don't know. If you were gonna say have him fight one more match, who would you have him face? One last Undertaker match. Who does he face? Kane?
Sting.
No.
Sting.
Ding?
Sting.
Sting. Oh, Sting. Yeah, no, that would okay. Yeah, let's go back to the old folks home and get a good wrestling match.
Said if I could pick one person, that's the one person I'd want on the wrestle. Seeing that neither one of them are wrestling, he doesn't need to have another match.
Yeah,
He's had plenty of them.
But Steven, your opinions are bad. We've figured that out. So your opinion doesn't really count for anything.
Who would you like to see him wrestle, huh?
I just said Kane. I think Kane makes sense.
All right, so if you have to have one more Undertaker match, if you tell me I have to have one more at WrestleMania, it's got to be Brock Lesnar, and he's got to beat him. It's the rematch. It's the way the match should have ended in the first place. It's Brock
Had
Lesnar.
that at SummerSlam the year after Lesnar beat him.
It's not the same match. SummerSlam and WrestleMania aren't the same thing.
It's not the same match, but you're not going to get rid of that blemish.
Yeah, WrestleMania is bad and SummerSlam is good.
Oh, you'll never forget that, right? You'll never forget that streak ending. But if you, like I said, this is you telling me I have to have one more Undertaker match, then that's going to be it. Not have another Undertaker match.
Yes, let's not have another Undertaker match.
Give guys like Bray Wyatt a chance. Let's give guys like Mustafa Ali a chance. Let's give some of these guys that are on the roster, Kevin Owens, a chance. Let's give people that deserve it, who are working weekly.
I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm more excited for the Raw and SmackDown after Mania than I actually am WrestleMania at this point.
That's always how it is, though.
Talked about if we ever decided to go to WrestleMania and bought the package, I would probably sell my WrestleMania tickets and go watch it from the hotel room so I can make my money to go to the Raw and the SmackDown, because I'd be more excited to be at those.
Yeah, but once you do that, you would sell the tickets and an amazing thing would happen that night.
What's the last amazing thing that happened at a WrestleMania?
Seth Rollins cashing in.
Probably the last time we had a really huge moment at WrestleMania.
I don't know that we'll have one this year that will be that big.
Cash-in has become the moment. The cash-in's become the only thing that could, maybe, like you're saying, James, maybe the Demon, but the Demon just coming out doesn't necessarily mean the Demon gets a chance at anything other than the Intercontinental title. Like, there's no other title he could get that night. There's no other huge pop he can get that night.
I'm only saying
the biggest pops are for the main titles.
Well, yeah. That's only a single moment pop. Like,
biggest pop of WrestleMania is going to be Kofi Kingston winning the belt.
Probably. They've done a good job.
Yes. He's going to Mania. He's going to Mania. Oh, sorry.
I actually really enjoyed the idea, the concept of having the tag team gauntlet to get Kofi in. Although the only thing I don't like about it is that I am of the mindset that I don't think that the New Day should break up in any form or fashion, and I feel like that pushes towards it when you did it that way.
It surely had the feeling of it Tuesday night. Like, it just felt like this is the beginning of the end. This is the beginning of, Big E and Xavier feeling like, they've been doing all the work. Yeah, like that definitely had that feeling last night.
He's celebrating with the belt, talking about how all his hard work has finally paid off. They turn on him because it wasn't your hard work. It was our hard work, and we carried you. We're the one that put you in this place, not you. You were here for 12 years and couldn't do it. You needed us, and they're going to turn on Kofi.
I can't believe that they would do that turn at WrestleMania, though. It would be shocking to have it happen at WrestleMania, but
not now.
Yeah.
Not being, if it was the last match, I'd say that Steven, might still have a chance at his theory, but I think with the women ending it,
I think they have to develop that turn.
And I also think, as another swerve, you push Xavier and not Big E.
No, No, I refused. I refused to let the opinion come out of your mouth, Steven, that has anything to do with Xavier Woods. When we were saying Xavier Woods, and you would say, no, Big E. No, Big E. Hush your mouth. You are not allowed.
Calm down.
You are
My
not
opinion
allowed.
can change.
No, it cannot. It's not allowed.
I think whatever happens by Backlash, that makes sense. It's the right naming of a pay-per-view to have something like that happen. It probably
Kofi
happens
versus Randy Orton at Backlash.
Where at the end of it they turn on him. Stupid.
I gotta go grab something. I'll be right back. Y'all guys carry on.
Fuck.
I don't know why this Kofi things work so much, because at the beginning of it I was so against it, but even last night with the tag thing, like, and watching everybody in the back get behind them, and the best moment of the night was the Usos coming out and just forfeiting.
Oh yeah,
Basically
that was good
just
stuff.
saying that was the perfect promo. I almost wish they would have did that with Anderson and Gallows. You can't do it twice. It didn't make as much sense doing it twice.
When Anderson and Gallows, man, that was kind of like a weird thing. I think they're getting ready to leave.
Oh no, they're done. Yeah, they're not going to re-up, which makes sense. I mean, they fit really well, I feel like, in AEW if they want to do that. And they've made a name for themselves, and they did a good job while they were here with WWE. Sometimes it's just time, and it's just a crowded roster. So these guys who went their whole career to try to get to WWE get there, and they've reached their goal, and now it's time to do kind of their own thing. I mean, there's plenty of guys on the independent circuit that are doing great things that were on WWE and now gone. I mean, look at Cody Rhodes and what he's been doing. I mean, he never needs to come back. He could be fine independently. It just makes sense sometimes for guys to leave. It doesn't necessarily have to stay with WWE forever. We make these things up that, like, Balor thing. Like, how often do we complain that Finn Balor is not in the title picture or not the champion or hasn't gotten a shot? The guy could be perfectly fine with the role he's playing on TV every day. Like, what are we to say that he's not happy, like, making a living wrestling and being famous? Like, what more do you need? Oh, I got to have the title on a program that is written. No, this is written. This isn't like boxing or anything.
You get people being greedy.
Results.
People want certain people pushed.
Well, it's just a fan. It's just the fan perspective. I mean, that's the whole point of this podcast. I never want a professional wrestler to listen to this podcast and think that we are like,
wow, that's a bold statement.
Let me finish the statement before you throw stuff down my throat. I never want a professional wrestler to be listening to this podcast and to think to themselves, these guys don't know what the hell they're talking about because they're not in the business. You're right. There's certain things we don't know about because we're in the business, but I don't want that to be held against me. I'm perfectly fine with most of the decisions they make. I'm not always going to be happy with every story, but I understand that there's a lot more going into these decisions than I could ever know.
You're okay with Jinder winning the championship?
You know what is interesting is I look at Jinder Mahal now and I think, man, why don't they use Jinder Mahal anymore? Like, he's a really good heel. I mean, I disliked him as the champion for the marketing purposes, but then again, like, I hate every decision based on business. But that's really why I don't run a wrestling company, because if I did, it would be maybe great storytelling, but it wouldn't make a lot of money. ECW? It'd be ECW.
I think the whole Jinder thing, him winning the championship, pushed him to the mid-card person he is now. He's a great mid-card heel. He's not the bottom of the card anymore, like you have No Way Jose and stuff like that.
He's a good mid-card heel. What are you talking about? I barely see the guy. He was literally put into a triple threat match to go to WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, a handicap match to go to WrestleMania to take a pin, and that was it.
I agree with that. But he's a mid card heel right now. That's all he is, and he's good at that role. He wins the U.S. title picture. He's been the little bit of the things he has had over the last year. It's fit him perfectly. He does not deserve to be. I hate to say this. He's probably a great dude. He's gotten tremendously better in the ring, but he does not deserve to be at the top of the card. And that's part of your argument, Chris, with Finn. Is some of these people they can go and they deserve to be toward the top of the card. That's why people want them to be at the top of the card, not just have them content being the IC champion in the middle of the card.
I think
nothing or no champion.
I think that anybody can be the WWE champion if it fits the storyline. So
I feel like you lose credibility that way. That's one of the things I like about New Japan is their champion can be there for 8 months to a year and a half, and it's nobody bats an eye because they're a credible champion.
How have they not done that? How have they not done that though? How have they not? I mean, they've done that with AJ Styles. They did that. I mean, the thing is, they did that with Jinder Mahal as a I'll say a heely heel, like the type of heel that's not like a strong heel, but like is just a heel that has his henchmen that help him win. Does that make that less credible that he holds the title for that long?
Way that they threw him into the title picture in a matter of like 3 weeks, he was the champion from nowhere.
Oh.
After he was jobbing out on Raw, moved to SmackDown, and put to the top of the card. It helps tarnish the credibility of the WWE Championship in that fashion.
Dear God, Big Baby Jimmy, why are you defending Jinder Mahal right now?
It's because this is your favorite.
I think it's
number
just,
2. Next to Randy Orton.
You know what? I think it's that Becky effect, though. I haven't seen Jinder Mahal on TV like barely at all recently, and it makes me kind of like want to see Jinder Mahal more.
Been nursing a shoulder injury, I think it is. So that's why he's been off TV. But he's, to both your points, he's been a good heel, and he's interesting and he's getting better in the ring. But again, you're not going to put him in the main title pick. He's not going up against Brock Lesnar.
No,
maybe he could go up against Seth Rollins if Rollins wins the title and has a run. I could totally see Jinder making a run at the title and Rollins and Jinder having a decent program. That's fine because I think Rollins could work with anybody in the ring and it'll be interesting.
I mean,
but yeah, he's not going to go up against Brock.
More work and he develops his craft better, he could end up pushing himself to that point. He still has a lot of work to do before I think he's credible to be the top guy, the champ kind of person.
I think it's over. I mean, I think it's over for him as like being a main card pushed guy, other than like on a random episode of Raw or SmackDown or whatever.
Transitional kind of person, like he gets it for 2 weeks and loses it.
Well, no. I mean, I don't even think he's going to win it again. I'm saying like he might get the random title shot on a Raw or a SmackDown, but I don't actually think he's actually going to ever get it again. But it's okay, man. He had a good run. He had the title for a long time. So it's
the title before Drew McIntyre.
It's not really that big a deal. Yeah, I mean he's like the super successful member of 3MB, right?
Got kids.
McIntyre's next. I mean McIntyre. I don't know when his run's going to come, but he deserves it. I mean the guy's been a great character.
If not he'll get it at SummerSlam.
Do you think it actually hurts Roman Reigns at all for him to lose that match to Drew McIntyre? I don't really think it does.
I don't think it hurts him at all because he's still Vince's guy. He's still going to get pushed to the moon.
But that wasn't my question. My question is, does it hurt him to lose? I mean, not whether I actually thinks he's going to lose. I mean, I don't think
he doesn't need to win that match. He doesn't have to win that match.
I think it doesn't hurt his credibility at all. But I think for me personally, Drew McIntyre losing to Roman Reigns, especially after all this Dean buildup they've been doing, it does hurt him a little bit. Because how does he have any credibility to ask for a title shot if he can't beat Roman Reigns?
I think that's how they do it. I think they have him beat Roman, and that's what pushes him to be the next one in line for the belt. And I think after Mania, if you don't get the Roman heel turn at Mania, then you get Dean versus Drew as the next Universal Championship feud.
I don't know. I mean, if you're gonna keep Dean around, you might as well just have like Reigns and Dean do like a tag team for a while or something.
I mean, to your question, Roman can lose forever. I mean, how many match pay-per-views did Roman lose in the last couple of years? I mean, constantly losing to Brock Lesnar, constantly losing to everybody. Like, just because he doesn't have to win to look strong. I mean, he constantly was losing matches and he was fine.
You know what? Now that I think about it, how dare I even ask that question? Because I'm one of the biggest pushers of the whole idea of like, you don't have to win to look strong, and it drives me crazy that we worry so much about wins and losses. So shame on me for asking that. I apologize.
And didn't Finn beat him to get to the Universal title that time? Seth beat him in that gauntlet, back at the beginning of last year or whatever it was. Like there was tons of matches where Reigns lost.
Reigns has lost more big matches than he's won.
I think he lost to Lashley. Like he's lost to everybody. And it's okay because he's Roman Reigns.
Lost to Lashley at the pay-per-view, and then when it was for the number one contender spot against Brock, he beat Lashley on Raw.
Would you be willing to have Reigns have another program with Strowman?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great program.
Repackage Strowman a little bit though.
How do we repackage Strowman?
Works.
How do you want to repackage Strowman though?
Make him a monster again. He's against every commentator person that comes in. They're trying to make him funny little stupid segments where basically he's just a strong man who flips a car. I've seen them do that with Mark Henry. They did it with Mark Henry for years. We don't need another I can flip a car, I can bend a frying pan kind of character. Let him be a monster. Let him be legitimate out of the main picture.
But how do you create a legitimate monster?
I think it's time for Bray Wyatt.
Annihilating people.
No. Bring Bray back. Bray Wyatt back and have him get him back under his, control, and then get back to the black sheep character. Get back to that, just demonic kind of I'm going to beat the crap out of everybody and not even say anything character.
It would be an interesting twist when you look at certain stables, right? And typically your charismatic mouthpiece of the stable is usually the one that gets like the main title, right? But having a stable led by Bray, that being obviously the family, and having Strowman be the one that carries that title and not Bray, but maybe have Bray involved in like the mid-card title. It would be interesting.
Yeah. They just need Bray back. I mean, in any aspect, but I think Strowman was his scariest during his beginning stages with Bray, and then with his feud with Reigns. Those were the two best times we had Strowman that he had a chance to really look, strong. They even built him up.
That was a gold.
The missiles like that he threw, yeah. So a feud with Reigns would be great, and they work well together. I mean, I would make the same argument with a feud with Bray Wyatt and Reigns. I think Reigns works well with a few guys that would help both of them out.
Samoa Joe and Reigns.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
Because I want to see Samoa Joe talk shit to him about the whole cancer thing. I know that's a shitty move on my part, but I think Joe would be gold on the mic making fun of his cancer.
If Samoa Joe hasn't earned the right to be a world champion by now, I don't know what else he has to do. The guy is gold on the mic. He has great in-ring skills. It's just time. It's time to give him a push. And I don't know where or when, but I hope soon because the guy deserves it.
Add one good finisher, one good new finisher, and I think he's perfect.
I think they're trying to kind of do that with that Uranagi he does. Because isn't that what he used to pin Ray the other day on SmackDown?
They only did it against Ray, but they're starting to tease the Muscle Buster again. It's almost like when they brought the curb stomp back. Like, is it something that they're more comfortable letting him do again because there's been enough time, and that's a pretty decent finisher. few guys into it. Like I can't see him putting, Braun Strowman in the Muscle Buster. Pretty amazing,
pretty
but
sweet,
yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if they decide to rework any kind of finishing moves with him, but I'm actually fine with him just putting people to sleep. I just don't like it when they do it as a sleeper hold, which has been the MO lately. Is he's been just literally just doing like a regular sleeper hold, and that's not the move to me. He needs to grab him and drop him like he did when he basically tore up Seth's leg, right?
Though, is when they do that, it's so easily reversed into him getting pinned. He lost to AJ because he flipped over and pinned him. He lost to Kofi the other day because Kofi flipped over and pinned him. Like he lost to Kurt. He lost to Kurt because Kurt flipped over and pinned him. It's so easy to reverse that into a 3 count.
It is pretty sad. Almost as bad as watching, Asuka lose a title. It's like it feels wrong to watch a guy get like pinned so easily. Like Kurt just laid on him. Like any arch to Kurt's back when he was doing that. Yeah. at least Kofi like flipped over and like held him down. Kofi, that looked great when Kofi did it. And AJ did it well too, but it just, I don't know. There's something about the way Kurt did it where he just kind of like laid on him.
That's so
what
how
do you
Kurt's been doing
expect from
everything
the
here
man?
recently.
Oh man. Well, we're getting to that point. We've been talking for almost an hour and a half. Maybe we do one little round, and maybe talk about what we want to see from the next set of SmackDown and Raw. If there's anything that you're looking for WWE to kind of wrap up or create story, like something particularly. Chris, you got anything?
I think they need to figure out what they're going to do with Dean going into Mania here on Raw. It's something we've kind of touched on here and there, and we've talked about every once in a while. Is Dean going to stay? Is he going to go? Is he really signed? Is this a work? I think Raw is going to. I think it should be a big part of that. Like, what's Dean's next step? He's constantly getting beat up by McIntyre. I expect him to probably have another match against McIntyre because they don't want to have McIntyre and Reigns have any kind of interaction really until WrestleMania now. I think it's perfect the way they've hyped it, but they need to do something with Dean. Is it going to be a situation where McIntyre beats him up so badly that this is it? Dean's finally just gone, and that's why there's no contract and it wasn't ever a work? Or it's a situation where he beats him up real bad and he somehow comes out at Mania to help Reigns. That's where we get Dean's going to stick around, and maybe somewhere in there we get Roman turning heel. Down goes. Just keep doing what they're doing with Kofi. I was wrong. The Kofi storyline's been great. I just want to see them keep pushing Kofi, and they'll probably have some face-to-face time with Daniel Bryan and Kofi, and I'm sure they'll tease a little bit of the New Day with the New Day possibly getting a little bit, maybe the New Day comes out and they're a little tired, or maybe Big E's, selling that leg injury still. It'll be interesting. I'm actually looking forward, I think, to SmackDown more than Raw. They've done a better job, I feel like, over the last few weeks.
Steven, you got anything?
I agree with the whole Dean angle, because at this point, he's got nothing going on at Mania. So if he is gone, that's kind of a shitty thing to do. Everybody over leading up to not having him on the biggest show. Just some kind of clarity for him. And I want some kind of a stipulation added to the Daniel Bryan Kofi match. Like, I feel like it's been too much for them just to have like a normal match at this point. There's going to be something added in, like a no disqualification or no holds bar. Or something's going to be, some kind of a twist is going to be thrown into it somehow. I know there has to be. Like I said before, I would love it for 3 stages of hell. I know it's going to happen, if only. And then not Raw, but all of it, I want some clarification on the stupid women's title match. Just let us know what's really freaking happening. because you're going to get fallout from it on Raw and SmackDown. So just an answer.
Yeah. For me, my biggest gripe with what they've got going right now, I'm just not happy with either match that they've got set for the mid card of Raw or SmackDown. I think that the U.S. title having Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio, especially with the lack of promos that I've seen aimed specifically at Rey Mysterio by Samoa Joe, is not necessarily a good thing, and it's not getting me hyped for the match. So instead of having, if you're not going to have do Samoa Joe getting me hyped for a one-on-one match, then they need to add more people to that match. And they've got one more week to do it. They got one more week to make that U.S. title match something better than just Rey Mysterio, Samoa Joe. I'm not saying that's a bad match. It could be a very good match, but I want them to create a match, and this is going to sound a little selfish, but I want them to create a match that is going to make it so I don't have to talk to Nick and tell him that he was right, that AJ Styles and Randy Orton was the best match of WrestleMania. I still don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's
going to be Kofi and Daniel Bryan.
It probably will be. And I mean, they could still surprise us in a mid-card match. But really the same goes with Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor. Like, just having a Bobby Lashley-Finn Balor match, even if it's a demon match, like, so what? What does that do? What does that do? What does that do for the demon? And what does that do for Bobby Lashley? And making themselves like if you want to make these big guys look strong, you want to have a stipulation added to one of those matches where the matches become a little bit more hardcore, so they can take some, not too rough bumps, but they look rough because you're using props and stuff like that. So I think both of those matches need a little bit of tweaking. Because as they are, where they're just solo matches right now, I just don't think they're hitting the mark. So,
the IC title gets some stuff added to it. Like they could make Leo Rush a competitor and make, I hate to say it, though, gender into the middle of it. The US title, I think putting Andre the Giant Battle Royal eliminates the idea of having him in that match. It shouldn't, but I think it does, and I just don't think we get title, fatal four-way, or triple threat or anything like we were hoping for. I think that just stays a one-on-one. But the IC title, I feel like how they keep wanting to act like they're trying to screw, eventually add more people into that match.
I was telling Chris earlier today that I had read an interesting opinion piece about how they thought that the Intercontinental title should and Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor should just be thrown into the Andre Battle Royal or whatever. That you just make a Battle Royal where it's like, if you win this Battle Royal, you are going to be the new Intercontinental Champion. And I think that on top of getting the trophy, which means absolutely nothing, and the push what push? You don't really get a push, or maybe you get a push later. I don't know.
I'm still waiting on Lara's push when he won.
Well, exactly. So, but that's all our time today. Thanks everybody for listening. From me, Big Baby Jimmy, Chris, and Steven, we thank you for listening as always. And we'll be ready to make those WrestleMania picks next week. You guys pumped? Yeah, it's gonna take a while to get through all of them, because I'm sure it'll be make a pick, talk about the match, next match, make a pick, talk about the match. Yeah, so
13 matches. 13 matches.
I don't even know. I think it might be even more than that. Who knows?
They want to keep it between 13 to 14. I think too much is going to push them to 8 hours. So
that's exactly making them my point, where they need to make those mid card titles like have more people in them. Because where's the ladder match? Is there not a ladder match?
Ladder match.
I mean,
then as of now.
So that's a shame. There should be
more shows. 2 more shows to make a ladder match.
Yeah, so there needs to be a ladder match, and I'm hoping it will be on SmackDown for that U.S. title, and then I can confidently look at Nick and say, there's no way Randy Orton and AJ Styles will be the best match, because so and so, so and so, so and so, and so and so are in a ladder match, and that's going to be the best match. So we'll see how it goes.
Kofi Daniel Bryan could be a good ladder match. The both of them can do work jumping off and falling off of stuff.
Listen, hey, Steven, I need you to not do what WWE did with Becky with Kofi and Bryan for me, all right? Stop beating your dead horse of Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan.
Hey, you've been against it since the freaking
against it? What are you talking about? I have not been against it at all. I've been neutral. I have been neutral. Have I been a hater or have I been neutral? Which one? I don't think I have. I think I've been neutral. But again, that's all for us today, guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later.